With that being said, we're almost ready to wrap up. So I wanted to give you guys, because we've talked a lot of shop, we've talked a lot of business. So I wanted to wrap this up with really allowing each of you to talk about what the biggest personal, emotional lesson has been through this. And I'm going to start with Ashley, because you are kind of the voice for people, engaged couples who are like, well, I'm in 2021. This hasn't really fully touched me in the same way it has for other people. So I want you to kind of share from your perspective, and maybe connect with those couples about, what you've learned and what watching other people go through this, especially your couples, has kind of taught you personally.
Well, it's kind of like when it comes down to planning a wedding. When you look at the big picture, it's very overwhelming because there's so many different areas and aspects that will affect you. Take it one step at a time. And I've really learned to appreciate the support that I have through friends and family through all of this, because maybe they're not understanding what you're dealing with on a personal level. And that's something that you kind of have to learn to figure out on your own, and then share that with the couples who are now experiencing what they're going through. So, take it one day at a time. Remember that, that hashtag that's everywhere, love is not canceled. It's not. It's something that you can really grow from, learn from, and move forward from. And this whole thing is a learning experience. Every day you learn how to deal with the restrictions that you have, but you learn to overcome it, and you learn to be better and more awesome from it.
Amazing. Thank you. Jenna, what is the biggest personal thing that you have kind of learned, and maybe something even that you and your fiance have learned together?
I think the main one would be patience. I will full out say that I'm probably one of the most impatient people in general, but really all you can do at this point is just really be patient. Definitely have that communication with your vendors, with your venue, to kind of see where things are sitting, where they're thinking for your wedding, next steps. But if, it's tough because in the wedding industry, we're used to having all of the answers for people, and our clients come to us for answers when they're unsure about things. And even as vendors, we don't have all the answers right now either. So I think from a personal level, just understanding that, your venue or your vendors might not have the answer that you want at this time. It doesn't mean that they're not going to eventually. It doesn't mean that, you're going to have to proceed with your wedding of only 50 people when it was supposed to be 200. It doesn't mean that anyone's going to be putting you in that position, but it's just too soon to say until everyone knows what the government's saying. So definitely patience. I know it's tough, easier said than done, but that's kind of what's getting us through right now personally with our own experience. Flexibility is one that I touched on again. Obviously, if we were to look back when we first started our wedding planning, were we ever considering having a wedding on a Thursday or a Wednesday? Absolutely not. But just with the circumstances that we're in, we know that, it's probably not going to happen on a Friday or a Saturday. And instead of stressing about that and letting it get us upset, we're looking at, okay, well, what's a solution that if we are getting married on a weekday, what's something that's going to work for us? We're even looking at, maybe even Canada Day next year, which is on a Thursday. It's a holiday. People won't be working. Again, probably not ideal. A lot of people do have Canada Day plans, but just knowing that your guests will hopefully understand given the current circumstances. And lastly, I would say, focus on what you can control. There's so many things right now that is just beyond our control. But what we're really doing with our wedding is focusing on the things that we can do right now. So that's like, kind of finalizing the design, working on floor plans. My fiance did a virtual suit consultation the other day. So, there are kind of ways where vendors are working with their clients to find a solution that we can work on at the moment. So just really focusing on the things that you can complete right now, as opposed to the things that you can't do, I think is really helping us get through this time, and should hopefully help other brides and grooms as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Caroline, what is some of the things that you've kind of learned, and you and Jenny have kind of learned through this process?
I think patience is definitely one of those, and just to stay positive that your day will happen. It's not going to happen when you originally planned, but it definitely will happen, and your family and friends definitely understand what you're going, like, maybe they don't understand personally what you're going through, but they understand that, you know, you've had to change plans due to something that's out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we have been in a relationship for 8 years, going on 9 years, and we lived apart. We did long distance for 4 years before we got engaged. So we were ready to get engaged and to get married, to take this next step. And then this happened and kind of, you know, put everything on pause. But, you know, we're still going to get married. And maybe it's not going to be what we originally planned. But, you know, it will still happen, and love continues. So,
Yeah. No, thank you. Jen, what do you think? What has been the biggest thing that you have learned through this process?
I've just been trying to focus on just finding the silver lining in every sort of twist and turn throughout this whole, the last month. My fiance and I, we have, you know, had a lot of discussions, as I'm sure all of you guys have with your partners, just about what is really the most important thing to us when we do have our wedding day, and, you know, things like that. So we're just trying to kind of find the silver lining whenever we can. And also just sort of making sure that, you know, in your interactions with your own vendors and your clients, I'm just really trying to make sure that every time I sit down to write an email, it's from a place of understanding and, you know, compassion. That's been one of the biggest takeaways in talking with my own vendors. I just was so blown away by just how some of them preferred to call me on the phone, and then some sent emails, and it's just the kind words. Like, I know it's sometimes it sort of sounds like you're adding, you know, niceties and fluff to your email, but it actually has been really eye-opening, getting such thoughtful and kind and well-written responses from people that are just offering, you know, that their sympathy, honestly. Like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, postponing your wedding is not the worst case scenario, especially considering what we're all going through. Like, a lot of people have a lot bigger problems than this right now. So I think just kind of like sort of checking in with yourself and, you know, a little reality check is good. But I do think that approaching every kind of piece of communication with kindness and understanding and empathy really goes a long way, because that for me has been huge with my vendor team. And it honestly has really, I was already confident with everyone that I hired, but it sort of really just, you know, cemented that for me. Like, yes, these are professionals. They, you know, they care about us. They care about their work. So that's been really, really helpful for me. So just being positive, trying to find the light in the situation, and yeah, just really coming from a place of understanding.
Amazing. Thank you. Julia, what has been the biggest lesson that you have learned, the biggest thing that you have been dealing with your fiance, and that you're taking away from this?
So it's about what really matters in the end. Really just some details that are not really important, and to focus, to forward, to, you know, like I think Jenna was saying, to know what you can't control and know what you can, and make the best of it.
Mm.
It's really about that, changing how your mindset. At first, I was really not there. I was being very kind of negative about it, and we had talks with my fiance, and I slowly changed my point of view. And what we did, actually, we made like a kind of a list of pros and cons about postponing, and to see that there was actually a lot of pros. There was actually a lot of good things. Like, one thing, for example, is that we got engaged last April. So I didn't have that much time to plan the wedding, with also, you know, getting very busy with my plans and everything. And I knew in my head before all of this happened, I was actually thinking, oh, I wish I had more time. Now I have. So I was actually like, well, I actually have more time to plan some different things that maybe, you know, I couldn't have. Like sending actually a printed save the date. We didn't do a printed one. We did an online one, which worked really well. It was, you know, very practical. It was affordable. But now it was like, well, I actually really want to send like a really nice save the date so people can put on their fridge or just, you know, as a keepsake, whatever. And we're actually going to be doing that. And it got me excited again about planning the wedding. It, you know, less stress as well. Like I'm not stressed anymore really about it, you know, so that's a good thing. And also, you know, focusing on the business side also of it. Like, okay, yes, maybe my next wedding will be in August. I not, you know, we don't know. But in the meantime, I am working on my business, on my marketing, on doing a new website. So I think, yeah, just having a positive mindset overall has been, you know, it's really important for everything. So, yeah.
Thank you. And then last but not least, Khrystyna, what is,
oh my God,
Julie, this has been a big thing.
Hits it right on the head. I was like so not the positive person, which was so hard in the beginning because like I'm a planner. People come to me and I was like, okay, like I was so good with other people and being like, this is the plan, like I got you, this is what's happening. And then just it hit me so much personally to just be so like upset and grieving it, and knowing, like, you know, from like a very logical point of view, hearing people say, you know, it's still going to happen, it's still going to be beautiful. It was great. It just like in my anger was like not helping me. Like I think Julia said, you know, I was watching like a wedding movie would come on and I'd be like, no, or like, you know, my feed is all weddings. It was just like this like moment of like, how do I get excited about this again? And I think that just, that's what I learned, is like approaching it with people from a very empathetic place, and just knowing that maybe you're not at the, you know, finding meaning in things stage yet, or like accepting this is like the good things in it, because maybe you just haven't gotten there yet. You will, like, you know, I did, but like, it just took me a little while to kind of sit there in my little bubble of like being sad and upset about it. But then just kind of, you know, taking the greater, you know, putting it in perspective. And we live across the street from one of the hardest hit long-term care homes. So I have news trucks, ambulances, everything here every single day on my street. So just to like look out the window and see that when I'm, you know, freaking out about my wedding, that kind of also pulled me out, and was just like, okay, like this is, you're very lucky to do this. You're very lucky to just like have, again, this perspective and all this. So, you know, and then just the other side of, you know, being a planner, getting super excited about planning this new like backyard little wedding thing that my friends were like, wow, you would have never like, you know, planned for that originally, but now you get like, you know, all types of weddings. You'll get your church wedding next year and your big venue party, and then you'll get your little intimate backyard thing, which is, again, for me, so exciting, because now I get to plan this stuff and figure it out and design it. So that really is what took me from not being stressed about it anymore. It was like, okay, this is like done. We made the decision. We moved the date. Now I have a new thing to focus on. So that's been really driving me. And like Julia said, just kind of focusing on the business side. But with Nick, yeah, I mean, sitting down and us even having this very, you know, personal discussion, whereas the first time around, it was just sort of like, okay, we knew we're getting married in the church. We knew, you know, we knew all this stuff was happening. But this was really like a really nice moment to say, okay, before we talk to parents, before we talk to anybody and tell them what's up, like let's, between us, figure out how we want it to look. And I mean, I think he was just like, can we just do the backyard thing? Like, is this like, just do this? But that was one of the first things he said, was like, can we still just like get married? And I was like, wow, this is pretty great, because if we can figure it out in 2020, like that'll just be our, you know, that's the way it happened. And like I said, I think to Kirsten before, it's all gonna be backwards, because we're probably gonna do our honeymoon next year before the wedding, and like, you know, all this stuff. But it's just, you know, it definitely puts it into perspective to say, you know, I'm sure, you know, we've all been together with partners for whatever time. There's things that's happened in the past that we've had to work through. There's things that are going to happen. Maybe this is like a nice big test for our, you know, first big test for us, or, you know, how we deal with like communication and making these kind of decisions. But yeah, I mean, just kind of voicing the emotional and kind of giving people space to be emotional about these things and say, yes, there are very important, way greater things happening in the world, but this is also a very big little thing to you. So again, just definitely learning to approach that with clients and myself and the way I tell people what I need, just to say, okay, this was a very big thing for me. Obviously, I'm a planner. This was my wedding. This was like the biggest thing I'm ever going to get to plan. And now, you know, facing, you know, at the time, just like dealing with, you know, how it's going to have to be different or whatever. Just like trying to say, I know you might not understand, but I need you to like hold that space for me to like be emotional about this. So just passing that on to how I deal with clients as well, and just telling them it's okay to be emotional about things. But then, you know, there are so many amazing positive things that you can choose to focus on and choose to, that you can kind of, like you said, control. So just kind of pivoting to that, I think that's been the biggest lesson, is to say, okay, now I'm going to be able to tell people I've managed weddings through COVID and my own wedding. So you know what, we can handle any issue now. So.
Yes. Thank you so much. So that's all that we have time for today. For all of the couples that stumbled upon this, I think I can speak for all of the ladies that are involved, that we're sending you all of our love, all of our support. We understand, yes, I am already married, but, you know, my husband and I have had to face a lot of things. As Khrystyna said, you know, this is a moment for you guys to really celebrate, even though it's not in the big way that maybe you planned this year, but celebrate the fact that you have this person, that you are in love, that you get to share this crazy situation with the person that you love. And if you are healthy, embrace that you are healthy together. And if you have people that are not healthy, cling even tighter to your loved one right now. So from all of us, we're sending you love, we're sending you support. If we're working with you in some capacity and you know us, we are here for you. So thank you for putting your trust in us. Thank you for listening. To all of you ladies, thank you so, so much for sharing your perspective, sharing your heart, and taking the time out of your day to do this. I really, really appreciate it. And all of the relevant links that I can share will be shared below so that you can connect with these lovely people. All right. Wave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten, for organizing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.